Hello, beauty. Welcome to Wise Womb Wednesday. My name is Caitlin Arce of 100 Leaf Healing Arts, and I've created Wise Womb Wednesdays to share with you information about how to tend to your womb spiritually, physically, and emotionally. So today we're going to be talking about Yoni steaming and demystifying the Yoni steam or the vaginal steam. Yoni steaming is a practice that has been done safely and with love and joy for generations and generations, and recently has gotten a little attention in the media. And I wanted to do this video today because I've noticed that it's actually gotten a lot of negative attention, and that's due to some misconceptions, and I want to clear some of those up. So firstly, the reasons why we do a Yoni steam are to connect with our bodies in a very intimate way, to allow the properties of the herbs that we use in the steam to penetrate the tissues in a different way than if we just ingested the herbs or used a suppository. We do them to open, to soften, and to just maintain that connection and for overall well-being. And I can talk about some of the specific reasons why we might steam as well. So what I wanted to share is the reasons that we do not steam. So some misconceptions that are in the media are that Yoni steaming is actually based on this patriarchal idea that the yoni or the vagina is dirty. That is absolutely not why we steam. We steam to care for our yoni and not to tell it it's bad and that it needs to clean up. Absolutely not. That idea, while I can totally see where it came from, just is not connected to the traditions of Yoni steaming. So why do we steam? I've talked about the broader reasons. Some of the benefits that we might see is more regulated cycles, less cramping. Women that have some dryness and discomfort, they might want to steam to increase. And we steam to soften the cervix if there's any pain with that tissue. We steam to just support the cycle overall, to connect with the cycle, especially after any sort of infection or procedure. Once those things have healed, then a lot of times the tissues are irritated, and steaming can be a beautiful way to soothe the tissue and get your body feeling not just not sick, but actually well. So I want to share a little bit about the equipment. I'll share with you my home steam equipment. I do offer Yoni steams in my office, but as this is being filmed at during the time of COVID, I don't have access to all of that equipment. And of course, you can come see a practitioner if you're interested in Yoni steaming and not quite sure where to begin, or just want that extra boost of confidence or the extra little bit of pampering of doing it in the office. That being said, you don't need fancy equipment. I will absolutely share with you how to practice this without all of the fancy equipment on this video today. So this is my rice pot. It's not fancy equipment, but it is specialized. You do not need this, but if you have access to this, I actually love using a rice cooker or a crock pot because they are all in one. So we can use the cook feature to cook the herbs and create the steam. And then we use the warm feature typically when we're sitting over it so that it doesn't get too hot. Now, when we talk about using equipment for heating the steam, of course, we want to use common sense here. You hear a lot of horror stories about women burning their yonis. I want you to remember that the tissue of the yoni is very, very sensitive. There's a lot of mucous membranes there. So if it would be too hot for the back of your hand, for the inside of your mouth, for your lips, then it will definitely be too hot for your yoni. So definitely test out, just as you test a bottle for a baby after you heat it on the back of your hand, you want to be testing your steam. Remember that steam itself is hot, not just the water. So you always want to be testing the steam so that you are careful not to burn yourself. So then we have this beautiful steam stool, and these are amazing. I absolutely love them. That being said, I don't recommend purchasing one if you're new to steaming because they're very expensive and not necessary. And I'll talk about how you can do this without an expensive piece of equipment like that. And then last but not least, and probably most importantly, is our herbs. So in addition to water, we add herbs to the water to allow the properties of the herbs to come up into the tissue and penetrate the tissues. So there's a lot of different blends you can purchase. You can also make your own. I recommend working with an herbalist or an acupuncturist directly who might have experience with these herbs. You can also purchase pre-made steam blends from a lot of practitioners, including myself, and also from Etsy seems to have a lot. Depending on what you're trying to do with your steam, that would depend on which herbs you use. But I do recommend doing your research because some herbs are going to be more potent and we want to use them a little more sparingly, or maybe they wouldn't be indicated for your body at all. So I would recommend doing your research and figuring out what you want to use for your steam blend. So I want to talk about contraindications, reasons we would not do a steam. So of course there are going to be exceptions for almost all of these contraindications, but if you're doing this at home, your best bet is to avoid steaming during any of these times. So we would avoid steaming during menstruation. We want to allow the menstrual blood to come out, not pulling up with the steam and upward motion. We avoid steaming during pregnancy because we don't want to soften the cervix. We want to keep baby in, held tightly. We avoid steaming if there's infection present, again, because the steam pulls things up in and we want infection to go out. And then we typically avoid steaming after a surgery or any sort of procedure until we're really sure that the steam will not irritate that procedure. That being said, after a procedure or after an infection, once you have the go-ahead, once everything's cleared up and healed, and those tissues are still a little irritated, that's an amazing time to steam because we can go from just being not sick to well, and really tend to the tissues and reconnect with our body during a time when things have gone a little bit awry. So a little bit of safety. We never steam with essential oils. There are some practitioners that do recommend that. That is something I would never recommend. The volatile oils are just too compounded in essential oils to that when you combine them with heat, those mucous membranes can actually get damaged from using essential oils. And we just want to be really careful when we're doing that. And of course you want to be careful with the temperature as well, which I mentioned before. So for home use, we just need a couple of things. We need our container, we need our heat source, and we need our herbs. So I've already talked about herbs. Container, you can just use a regular pot. If you don't have access to any of the things I've talked about, you can just use a pot that you've heated on the stove. Then how to sit over it. You can use a lawn chair that has the slits in it. You can use a regular chair with the seat taken off. You can sit on the edge of a chair if you have a chair where you can do that safely. You can squat over your steam pot. It's not very comfortable, but it is an option. And then the good old trick of cleaning your toilet really well and putting your pot directly in it. Obviously, if you're trying to use a rice cooker or crock pot, you cannot do that with that option. But if you're using a regular pot, you can totally clean your toilet really well. Drop your pot right in it with the hot steamy herbs in it. I usually put a towel down and then sit over it just so you don't burn yourself on the edge of the pot. And yeah, you just have to clean really well. It has a little bit of ick factor, but it is a way to make the steaming accessible. You can also use a sitz bath. Again, you just want to make sure you're far enough away from the steam where you're not going to be burning yourself, and make sure that your sitz bath isn't going to be made out of a material that is unable to get hot. So So yeah, steaming is not as scary as it might seem to some, and certainly not as scary as some of the articles out there on it. If you have any questions, or if you'd like to reach out, if you have suggestions for future Wise Womb Wednesdays, which are done on the third Wednesday of every month, I'm totally happy to hear from you, and I would love to hear from you. Again, I'm Caitlin Arce of 100 Leaf Healing Arts, and I look forward to seeing your questions and comments and supporting you with your womb health. Thank you.